Okay, we're back. So, welcome to the Schoolhouse for Art. My name is Lana, and we are hopefully going to be having a chat very soon with the lovely Richard Allen. So, Richard has been doing some online classes with us. I keep trying to use my keyboard instead of my phone to invite him. Richard has been doing some online classes with us, and we are delighted to announce that he'll be doing another block of six classes with us. And now let's go live with Richard Allen. There you are.
Hey, finally.
So, how are you doing this morning, apart from that little last minute stress?
I'm well. No, I think that these stressful moments, I manufacture stress immediately before doing any session. The recent course session that I did on Tuesday, I managed to flood my toilet by unscrewing the system about 10 minutes beforehand.
Oh,
It's
lovely.
just, it focuses the mind just to do that kind of.
Good. Well, any conversation I thought I was going to ask, I've now I just feel like we should talk about art and online and how everything has just, like, there's been this sort of rush with art to go online and everything at the moment. I mean, we're a physical art facility, an art school, and all of a sudden when lockdown happened, we were scrambling to figure out how we managed to still give space for people to create art and develop in their discipline, and then also reach out to the international artists like yourselves that we plan to have over for workshops. And we've sort of tried to piecemeal everything together to create something, and it's working surprisingly well, and it gives us the opportunity to have the likes of yourself working and running classes with us on a weekly basis. And then also, like, the selling of art and everything has gone online with galleries and exhibitions. How do you find it? How does art and technology sort of match
Yeah,
for you?
I don't know. I mean, they don't make for very easy bedfellows in some ways. I mean, certainly, a lot of my stuff, I vow to work more from life because I kind of just to push myself, and it feels sort of easy to be working from photos. So I guess that I have some issues with, say, with portraiture, working over Zoom, but I think that that's probably my resistance is not really all that logical. I mean that the whole thing about taking classes online. I work as a visiting tutor at the Arts University Bournemouth, and that everything having to go online, tutorials and workshops. I think that everyone is having to come up to speed fast
Mm.
with that side of things, and feeling as though there are some kind of teething pains, but it seems to be falling into place. What I found with the sessions through Schoolhouse for Art, I mean, I found doing them enormously rewarding, but I mean, there's the limitations of it, that you want to show people without sort of tripping over cables, or you want that kind of interaction. I'm sure that it will come more naturally.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about sort of selling stuff online, yeah, I mean, that's a sort of an interesting outlet as well. That I started joining in some of the artist support pledge
Yeah,
things,
I saw that.
um, and that was kind of cool, sort of carving out new markets or audiences. I think it's always a little bit sort of with working on Instagram and just sort of chucking stuff out into the void. It sort of alternates between being a sort of desperately lonely experience, and just longing for, sort of cravenly sort of seeking those likes or responses, and being something that is very participatory and kind of rewarding. But
Yeah,
yeah,
and I guess to share your art is, and like any artist does, you want that sort of feedback and um interaction with it from other people. And the only way to be able to have done that for the last 12 months essentially has been online. But then there's the sort of once you put it out there, you suddenly don't have that much control over images and what happens to it. And there's that sort of fear factor as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all of that is ever present. I mean, the
Mm.
whole idea of, I mean, it can be, certainly for me, painting is a very sort of insular, isolated activity. And you're right that without an audience and without that kind of audience response, it's missing something.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, that sort of lack of control and the whole kind of marketing add-on, bolt-on to it is something that I think a lot of creative types struggle with.
Yeah. And have you always known you were a creative type?
I guess so. I mean, I suppose that unlike my kids who need a lot of cajoling to do anything, I mean, they've obviously got the constant distraction and entertainment factor, and people of my age are forever saying kids need boredom in their life, and that the only way to sort of master
Inspire
something
creativity.
is just that sort of crushing boredom of not knowing what to do and not having anything to entertain you. So I think a lot of my childhood was spent drawing, and that was kind of unprompted. I think that my dad was, enjoyed drawing and taught art and pottery and that kind of thing. He was a primary school head teacher. And my grandfather had been a sort of unfulfilled artist who liked painting uh, pictures of houses from the village he grew up in on pebbles. That was
Oh,
his.
wow.
That was his
Have
thing.
you still got any of them? Have you kept
Yeah,
them?
I think they're kicking around. I mean, it seemed like
Amazing.
as a kind of passion project, it was something that he took a bit of ribbing from the family because it was obviously something that had that kind of um, it's something that he just needed to do to get these things out of his sort of
Oh,
memory to construct these things. But he got a lot of kind of ribbing from everyone else because I guess the art in general it can seem like a monumental folly. I'm always thinking of that bit in Close Encounters where the guy is sort of sculpting mashed potato. And that sort of, and his family end up leaving him. That's always a good kind of
is that
message.
always a looming threat if your family leaves
Yeah, that
at
it's
the
just that sort of level of passion or that sort of compulsion to do something
mm.
is it can be sort of difficult to explain. Yeah.
And so when you left school, did you go straight into pursuing a professional career in illustration? Did you know that was the direction or
No, I mean I'm always a bit of slow on the uptake about certain things. So I did academic subjects. I then did a foundation course, which is sort of 1 year bridging between
okay.
secondary school and university or higher education. So the foundation course is supposed to be a taster of everything, but I was pretty much convinced I wanted to do painting. I'm not really sure. I mean, in some ways, painting is and has been for many years a kind of an antiquated thing or a bit of a niche pursuit. But I knew a lot of people, or I knew a number of people who influenced my thinking when I was about 16, who sort of suggested this kind of bohemian life that probably hadn't existed for about 80 years was something that I needed, that was the highest form of creative activity. So I then, after foundation course, I applied to do a 3 year degree course, fine art painting. It was more of a sort of conceptual course, so it was painting really in name only. I came out of that, so it was a while. I mean, the short answer is it took me a while to get my act together. That I kicked around at my old art school doing admin. I then did an MA in illustration part time, figuring that illustration more than fine art offered a kind of more of a predictable career path.
Sure.
And then it was, so it's the best part of, I don't know, 7 years after graduating that I first sort of dipped my toe in the water with professional work. So yeah,
Okay.
it's been sort of tortuous process getting to actually putting my stuff out there.
And I guess then because you've had quite an illustrious career, looking at all the accolades and everything that you've received for your work. And then obviously one of the biggest ones is the Sky Arts Landscape Artist of the Year. Um, and so that must be incredibly motivating and reassuring to help you to sort of be braver with what you're doing and continue more towards where the art takes you, as opposed to feeling like I need to go where the commercial avenue is, or
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's the kind of, that it's a feather in your cap, and it's sort of but I don't know that kind of the glow of the accolades. I mean, this sounds really kind of um, begrudging, or that, sort of jaded, if I say that, the awards don't. Of course, the awards, they mean a lot, and getting stuff like illustration awards
mm,
in this country and in America, for what can be a very sort of marginal activity, or um, it's great to feel that somebody else is valuing the work. Um, in more sort of cynical moments, you think, well, it's what does it really count for? But it's best to banish those kind of
yeah,
self self defeating thoughts. Yeah, I mean, and it's as much kind of profile, and just reminding people that you exist, and all of those kind of things. The awards. I mean, the Sky Arts thing was kind of interesting, because I'd returned to painting as an outlet that wasn't sort of commercially driven, and just something that I could chip away at. But I didn't really have any much of an end game. I still don't really. And
the mashed potato.
the mashed potato again. So Richard Dreyfuss doing the mashed potato thing in Close Encounters. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a little bit. I likened it to, so me entering the Sky Arts thing. I missed the deadline for the portrait thing and put in for the landscape one. So I'd done a sort of a landscape, a kind of round the houses landscape painting that um, was kind of an audition piece for the Sky Arts thing. But having gone from doing something that was very much a sort of crazy person chipping away at, doing lots and lots of observational painting, painting from life, and then just going to putting to entering this TV based competition. And I was saying, I said to a number of people, it's a bit like the people that won't go to their GP, but then they put in for embarrassing bodies or something. It's that level of kind of odd, sort of contradictory exhibitionism about something. So, but yeah, the Sky Arts thing it sort of propelled things in a different direction, and it was a sort of, in some ways, it's kind of indication of all that studio-based work, and
Mhm.
yeah, and it's led to lots and lots of opportunities, whether it's sort of commissions or gallery shows. It brings its own challenges, because it's not keys to the Magic Kingdom or anything, but it's certainly, it propels you to a different sort of level.
Yeah, I do think all of those TV based shows, they bring, like, they kind of take the folly out of the art. As in, back when you were talking about your grandfather's generation, anything artistic would have been considered bohemian. Whereas now there's a lot more respect for artists and what they do. And I think a lot more goes into supporting them and appreciating it. Is that my own opinion, or would you get that sense yourself?
I think that there is perhaps more of a that in general there is a sort of more receptiveness towards that kind of activity, and yeah, I guess that it does sort of yeah. I don't know. I mean, I suppose in making those kind of programs, that there is a sort of a story that is that people need to sort of hear about, people going on a journey and all that kind of thing, and the challenges that they face along the way. So we're all kind of hip to how those things work. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, the actual sort of activity of art, and it did remind me of the fact that, I mean, it's a completely artificial exercise, these kind of 4 hour painting sessions, um, and some of it's very kind of performative, that you've got the camera crews buzzing around the whole time, and you're being asked similar sort of questions. Um, but it did sort of return me to the idea of that it's an absorbing activity, and that it's that kind of tension between getting something looking right and the sort of mark making and that kind of zen feeling of, so in many ways that activity for me was it reminded me of just in some ways of the purpose of art. And I think that a lot of the program is about that kind of I think that the way the program is put together, landscape artists of the year, and the following that it's brought is there's a lot of warmth behind it, and a lot of
Mm.
sort of nurturing, I think, in the way that the program is done.
Yeah. And when certainly when you were talking about like the Zen in your paintings, and you kind of get that creative flow, and you're in your area where art is happening. Certainly when I am joining your online classes with us, a lot of what the students are trying to do is replicate your style. Or I've joined a few times, and you're having that conversation where you're trying to bring out their own individual sort of brush strokes, but they do seem inspired by your painterly way of painting. And do you find that's unique to you, or have you been inspired by certain people, or how did you fall upon this sort of way of painting, and the brush strokes that you use?
I mean, there's definitely sort of influences on what I do, and things like I don't know, people who work in a sort of heavy impasto way, like Lucian Freud or Frank Albach, really sort of pushing the paint around and working with those sort of physical properties of the paint. That's what I really like doing. It was interesting, the very first session I did, that maybe because I was working in a quite kind of tentative way, that one of the class members was saying, this isn't, these aren't your sort of signature brushstrokes. And I was paralyzed by that kind of self-consciousness about, no, I need to be sort of slathering it on and pushing it around. I don't know, how you arrive at a particular style or way of doing things, I think is, for me at least, is constantly in flux. So there are moments where I'm doing it, and then you don't want it to become too mannered or too much like just a formula for doing things. I'm always keen with responding to participants in the group who are a really good bunch, and I'm impressed by what I see, is that it's not about sort of prescribing a particular way of working,
Mm.
but it is, the style that we end up with is as much to do with influences or conscious decisions as it is to do with a kind of almost a sort of lack of ability, or the so it's a complicated thing. And I'm keen not to be sort of too dogmatic about the approach that I have, and that
Hmm.
it's just there to be emulated. I want to kind of tease out what it is that the students themselves hope to get out of it.
Yeah, I do see some lovely work coming back in from the class, and
Mm-hmm.
even just the setup of the different landscapes that you're choosing to paint each week. You can see sort of how that will make a lovely composition.
Mm.
Um, and then you also you when we started talking initially, we were wondering about whether to do a portrait class or the landscape class, because portraiture is something that you've been doing during lockdown, and it seems, was it something that kind of it took was kind of your direction for art during lockdown for certain reasons?
It's only been sort of maybe since the end of last year. I think that the whole of lockdown, I think as for lots of people, I think it acted as a spur for some people. For others, it just kind of, um, I don't know. And for me, certainly for a large part of 2020, it felt like something that I didn't really need to be doing, but yeah, so belatedly towards the end of last year, I had a portrait commission, and then off the back of that, I think that a lot of these things, whether it's me going back to painting, maybe about 8 years ago, or whatever, is about scratching a particular itch, or whether it's proving myself, or whether it's not being complacent, and certainly, so I had my kids, without probably knowing what they were letting themselves in for, agreed to sit for me. And I don't know, it's a bit indulgent on my part, very indulgent really, in that, I've had them sitting for maybe kind of three-quarters of an hour sessions every night for, for, it amounts to kind of child cruelty, really. It amounts to sort of
You're really
months of.
focusing on the boredom part. You're like, I'm going to force you now to be totally bored. It's going back to that
Exactly,
again.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So I kind of think again that whole kind of intensity of having somebody sitting there for you, and maybe it's a bit of a control thing, and maybe it's a bit of a maybe it's best not to probe too deeply into the motives for doing that. I was all for I keep both my kids are very resistant to it now, having both of them sat for two portraits, and I was asking Elliot, my son, and my wife said, I think we've got enough portraits of the kids, which is her kind of, I think, weighing in on their behalf. But
Okay.
but yeah, so really, again, I mean, the hours passing and the trying to build up a rhythm within those kind of disjointed sessions is something that I've got a lot out of. I mean, I sort of shift between it being a bit too sort of tight and really kind of there's a macho element to it really where it's not working and then you have to kind of pull it out of the bag and all those kind of things again, that kind of folly bit, but yeah, I'm pleased with the way that things are going with the portrait stuff.
Yeah, they're
But I don't know.
stunning.
I mean, as far as a class, I don't know that that might be a bit difficult to replicate if I'm doing kind of 15-hour.
Yeah. Well, I'm delighted that you'll be doing another landscape course with us from, is it April 27th? You'll be starting again?
Yeah, yeah. So this is so Tuesday's going to be the sixth one of the
Of the current
first
block.
series, and then yeah,
Yeah, I know. I can see some of your students are joined in on this chat this morning, so hi to them.
hello to everyone.
Uh,
Yeah.
and how do you know then when you're finished a painting? How do you know to put the brush down? Is that an ongoing kind of thing? There's always two questions that artists I think get answered. One is what do they do when they're having a creative block, and one is how do they know a painting is finished?
Creative block. Well, it can be that I'll spend hours staring at the painting and
Okay.
trying to kind of rehearse what needs doing on it. I mean, that has its downside, well, as well as kind of alienating everyone else. That has its downsides in that you can fixate on little details that need finessing, and you lose sight of yes, it's finished. So going on to the question of how do you know when it's finished? Sometimes you don't, and you overwork it and you ruin it. Sometimes you'll just kind of call it a day. It's very easy to do if it's plein air stuff outside. If the circumstances change dramatically and you're never going to get it back, then that draws a line under it. With the sky stuff, because it was 4-hour sessions and they were almost kind of exam pieces, that conveniently ended proceedings. I don't know, I think that we've all got a tendency to sort of whittle away at these things, that we know that there's that, it's finely balanced between ruining it. Oil paints can start getting too kind of sticky or cruddy or literally sort of sucking the oil out of the later layers that you put on.
Okay.
So there are, yeah, it's a difficult judgment call, really. But
When you make yourself, it's a hard decision that you make yourself, or do you?
yeah, no, it would be good to kind of defer to somebody else. And yeah, no, occasionally if people have said it's finished, put down the brush, then I'll take that advice.
Yeah. Well, I know you have a very intense work ethic. I know you were telling me about what happened after your Sky Arts, that you weren't taking comfort breaks. You were just working intently through.
Yeah, yeah, and ended up with kidney stones off the back of it. But we'll not dwell on that. But yeah.
No, but I do appreciate all of the work that you're putting in for our classes and everything. And it's really lovely getting to know you. You're a lovely, lovely guy, and your art is fantastic. So we're delighted to be associated.
No, no, no. It's, I'm more than happy. You know, it would have been good to come over in person, and was it, you know, the year before last.
Mm,
But no, I mean, I think that you know, new challenges and, you know, not just phoning it in, but you know, really being involved and invested in the classes, I think is something that is, for me, is kind of a necessary thing. As with, you know, kind of having an audience or market for your work, I think that back and forth and discussing a process and not putting yourself on a pedestal, or thinking that you have all the wisdom. So that, again, that's, you know, part of the classes that I've really enjoyed, is that
yeah.
kind of back and forth.
Well, I'm sorry, I've got a phone call. I don't know, can you hear whistling in the background? This is so my mother-in-law's ringing me in the background. That's nice. Um, but I actually don't know if she'll even know how to hang up. But anyway, I was gonna let you go now. It just it starts with a technical thing and it seems to have ended the same way. So
Yeah,
maybe I'm gonna blame your sense of chaos, Richard.
yeah. No, no, it's great. It's great, great way to end. It's great symmetry to things. So, yeah,
Yeah. But I look forward. We will hopefully get you over soon. We really look forward to hosting you over here in Ireland when we've got vaccinated and the COVID thing is hopefully behind us at some stage. But it will be lovely to have you here in person.
that'd be
But
great.
thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you, Lana, and thanks for
All
everyone.
right.
Okay,
Yeah. Have a lovely day. See you, Richard.
same to you.